using unfiltered compost as mulch. In this class, we will learn the uses of unfiltered compost as mulch for shrubs, plants and trees. Objectives. At the end of this class, you'll be able to use of unfiltered compost. Let's first see how to mulch around the shrubs. Step 1. Knock the weeds around the stem of the shrub. Step 2. Spread the unfiltered compost on the surface of the soil as mulch. Now let's see how to mulch around the plants. This plant is in the front courtyard of the row of houses, so it should look nice after mulching. Here are the steps involved in mulching around this plant. Step 1. First put the layer of unfiltered compost surrounding the plant. Step 2. Add a layer of coarse filtered compost. Step 3. Then embellish it with bricks around it. Now the plant looks lovely, with a lot of nutrients too. Finally, let's use the unfiltered compost to mulch around the trees. In your garden and under your fruit trees, it is always better to have mulch or compost covering up any bare ground. Bare ground dries out faster and allows room for weeds to grow which compete with your garden plants for nutrients. If the weeds under a tree are thick or tall, then without weeding, mulching around the tree can be done. When mulching, you can simply cover over any existing weeds with newspaper, cardboard and compost. Now let's see the steps involved in mulching around the tree. Step 1. Wet the newspaper and cardboard. First of all, wet the newspaper and cardboard. Step 2. Knock down the weeds and cover with coarse filtered compost. Knock down the weeds, cover them with a layer of coarse filtered compost. This will form the nutrients for the tree. Step 3. Place the newspapers and cardboard. Make a layer of wet cardboard pieces. Here, also make sure they are overlapping one another, completely smothering the weeds so they cannot see the light. Step 4. Cover the layer of cardboard pieces with unfiltered compost. Cover the paper and cardboard with 2 or more inches of unfiltered compost. Use a thicker layer of unfiltered compost for trees and shrubs, or when you are smothering a lot of weeds. Step 5. Top dress it with coarse or fine filtered compost. Then top dress it with coarse or fine filtered compost so that it looks nice and pretty. The paper will decompose in a short time if it stays moist. The weeds will die, adding their nutrients back to the soil. This will save you a lot of unnecessary weeding. With that, we come to the end of this class. Let's recall what we have learned. In this class, we will learn the uses of unfiltered compost as mulch for shrubs, plants and trees. Step 1. Knock the weeds around the stem of the shrub. Clean the weeds and dead growth for the plant to breathe. Step 2. Spread the unfiltered compost on the surface of the soil as mulch. Now let's review the steps involved in mulching around the plants. Step 1. Put the layer of unfiltered compost surrounding the plant. Step 2. Add a layer of coarse filtered compost. Step 3. Embellish it with bricks around it. Finally, let's review the steps involved in mulching around the trees. Step 1. Wet the newspaper and cardboard. Step 2. Knock down the weeds and cover with coarse filtered compost. Step 3. Place the newspapers and cardboard. Step 4. Cover the layer of cardboard pieces with unfiltered compost. Step 5. Top dress it with coarse or fine filtered compost. You have now learned using unfiltered compost as mulch. Take our next class to learn about the procedure of using the liquid compost.